Samantha B. Guess what? It's campaign season again. As the midterms get closer, campaign emails are filling our inboxes. And while many of them seem about as trustworthy as the spam you get for discount boner pills, candidates are sending you all these messages for one unfortunate reason. They work. Unlike those pills, I want my $7 back, boner donor at hardnards.69. Americans spent more than $14 billion on the 2020 election, with 23% coming from small donors. So politicians will do whatever they can to get your money, even if that means taking more than donors intended and leaving them broke. A recent study found that 99% of fundraising emails use manipulative tactics. The other 1% just say, "Give me your money, you son of a bitch." One tactic you may have noticed is vague subject lines to get you to open the message, like Adam Schiff saying, "Hey," or Bernie Sanders actually emailing people with the subject line, "salivating." You have to click to find out whether Bernie is sexting you or just thinking about soup or, God forbid, both at the same time. When being coy and mysterious doesn't work, campaigns will use breathless exaggerations to get you to click, from Republicans warning they'll lose the House for good if you don't donate $9 by midnight to Nancy Pelosi's more succinct sales pitch, "Donate today or God will commit suicide." Some campaign emails even imitate official-looking correspondence or overdue bill notices. But as bad as those deceptive tactics are, a New York Times investigation showed that Trump and the Republicans have taken them to a new level.
Throughout 2020, many Trump supporters thought they were making a one-time donation to the Trump campaign, only to find out later that their bank accounts were being repeatedly drained.
If supporters did not uncheck these boxes, they found themselves paying recurring donations every month or even every week.
They also added a second pre-checked box that automatically doubled a donor's contribution.
If you uncheck this box, we will have to tell Trump you're a defector.
People miss these boxes. And the more you obscure them, the more text you add into them, the harder it is to know exactly what you're opting into.
It may be immoral, but it appears to be legal.
It may be immoral, but it appears to be legal. Can we just put that on the flag already? Trump was able to do all his scamming with the help of WinRed, the right-wing fundraising platform that processes his online donations. WinRed takes a chunk of every donation, which is a massive amount of money, considering it's processed $1.2 billion for Trump and his party. While they ultimately had to refund 10% of those donations, WinRed even made money from those refunds. But we probably shouldn't be surprised by their predatory tactics, since WinRed sounds like a 1950s tobacco brand whose target market was pregnant women. Of course, predatory political emails aren't just a Republican thing. Some Democratic organizations have used these tactics too. But don't worry, in true Democratic tradition, we kind of suck at it.
Democrats use these same sorts of programs, but not to the extent of how the Trump campaign managed this.
Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom's campaign website also had the same pre-checked box in place earlier this month until it was removed.
Why is it the only thing both parties can agree on is that politicians should be allowed to e-milk voters until them udders are dry as a bone? Like Republicans, Democrats have used pre-checked recurring donation boxes, non-existent deadlines, and all sorts of misleading content and design tactics in their emails. I mean, we should have seen it coming. Nobody has more graphic design majors than the left. But before we both sides this issue, let's acknowledge that Democrats at least have some shame about fleecing their voters. While most Republican groups use pre-checked recurring donation boxes, Act Blue, the Democratic counterpart to WinRed, has moved to block them entirely. In Democratic circles, a debate raged about the ethics of online solicitations, especially about Beto O'Rourke, who pre-checked the question, "Do you like me? Yes or no?" Meanwhile, on the right, there's been virtually no attempt to change predatory email practices. And speaking of the Republican Party, old people. Even outside the political sphere, those living out their golden years are gold mines for shady money-making schemes.
Older Americans are particularly at risk for this type of fraud. According to the FBI, more than 100,000 people aged 60 and over reported being scammed last year.
Older adults hold a majority of wealth in the United States, and the criminals know that. It's the same reason why bank robbers rob banks. They know where the money is.
That is disgusting. If you're going to go after an elderly person's money, do it the right way and manipulate them into leaving you everything in their will. Older people are the perfect target for nefarious campaign fundraising, thanks largely to their increased likelihood of cognitive impairment and low rates of digital literacy. Republican and Democratic campaigns target them with subject lines like Social Security, which is like sending a cat an email with the subject line laser pointer. Campaigns also spend disproportionately on ads for older audiences, which explains the countless shirtless Sam Waterston ads your grandmother gets. Unfortunately, when you combine a ruthless money-making operation and vulnerable elderly people, the results are all too predictable.
Well, in hospice care, Black gave $500, half of his monthly income. Over the next month, Trump's campaign tapped Blatt's bank account 6 more times, taking the dying man's last $3,000.
Bandits is what 78-year-old Victor Emilino called the Times when he realized that he'd paid almost $8,000 to the Trump campaign without realizing it. I'm retired, he said. I can't afford to pay all that damn money.
An 87-year-old in Illinois who made a, quote, series of small contributions to Trump last fall that he thought would add up to about $200. The Trump fundraising operation had actually withdrawn roughly $2,300.
This is literally the only Rachel Maddow clip your grandparents will ever be glad you emailed them. It's hard to be shocked by the Republicans' fondness for these scams. If it were up to them, all ballots would come with Trump's name pre-checked. But we don't have to resign ourselves to the status quo. There are some efforts to change things for the better.
Senate Democrats are pushing a ban on a controversial fundraising tactic after Trump supporters claimed they were duped into contributing a lot more money than they intended.
Today, the Federal Election Commission moved towards cracking down on this predatory behavior, voting unanimously to recommend that Congress ban campaigns from guiding donors into these kinds of recurring donations.
This was a unanimous bipartisan vote of 6-0. Half of the commission is made up of Republicans.
Yes, there's no one more brave and principled than Republicans who aren't elected by their lunatic base. We should also be cracking down on micro-targeting. In the olden days, way back when the internet was still in black and white, most people saw the same political ads. But micro-targeting allows campaigns to pinpoint super specific groups, allowing the craziest, most manipulative ads to stay under the radar and avoid accountability. Of course, companies like Facebook knew micro-targeting could be exploited by politicians to target vulnerable users, but they decided to take that risk. As the old saying goes, you can't make an omelet or a profit without breaking a few eggs or democracies. We're living in an era of bullshit, when nobody knows what to believe anymore. We can't even tell reality from cake, and politicians are capitalizing on that confusion. If we want to reduce ad money's influence in politics, we have to demand that from our lawmakers. And if they won't listen, we have to elect new lawmakers, which requires raising millions of dollars, which requires sending out a shit ton of fundraising ads. In short, America is doomed because advertising is a cancer on democracy. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.